I had a mindset shift that was fundamental. And then from that point forward had decided I'm okay living a mediocre life. I just want to be able to sleep at night and be able to look at my customers in the eye when I go to Walmart.
Yeah.
And that turned into learning that life lesson the organic way, which was I planned on doing the right thing just to do the right thing and planned on getting no success behind it. But then eventually, as I continued to make the right moves and just work hard and be disciplined and take good care of people around me, success found me. And that's kind of my story, is that I'm the guy that was, bro, I was the slimy, I would have stolen from you. I would have tried to steal your girl. I was just that guy. No self-discipline and no self-confidence. Like I just didn't, I had no value to me. So I didn't value me. So I felt like nobody else valued me. So it's like, you know, if I was in here, I'd be like, all these people hate me, nobody likes me, I'm gonna steal something valuable before I leave. That was just my mindset.
Three episodes. We'll just rip. So super cool. Is it German? Luke?
Yeah, Luke Lunkenheimer. Very German.
Yeah, super German. And then you're up in New York now?
Yeah, so Syracuse area, central New York. We're in the process of either Vegas or South Florida, like north of West Palm or Boca or somewhere in there, but we're moving.
And what's your dominant source of income from right now?
Right now, dominant source of income, which probably is contrary to what people think, is actually my car dealerships, the 3 stores that I own.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that used cars?
Used cars.
What do you guys specialize in vehicle-wise? Anything
So,
in particular?
brother, we're a very niche market. So subprime clients, people with less than perfect credit, and used cars under 25 grand. So for the dad who's looking for his 16-year-old daughter's first car, for the individual that's got bad credit or maybe just got their tax check, that's who we cater to.
How's the profit margin on a vehicle like that compared to selling like a Huracan?
Very good.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
That's what I figured.
I can't speak to the Huracan or a Maserati or a Bugatti. I can tell you that in order to facilitate that level of service and care and price tag, I'm sure it's a big hit. But I can tell you that we double up on used cars. We'll buy a car for $4,500, and including the profit on the automobile, the back end, the warranty, all that stuff, we'll make $3,000 to $4,000.
Why don't people just? I imagine you go to an auction, source out vehicles.
Yeah, people hear auction, Tristan, and they think, going to the rodeo where the guy's just, duct taping cars together and running them through. We buy primarily from new car dealers. They're trade-ins. And we've established relationships. But they run their cars through the auction, so that's the conduit that we get them. So yes, it is auction, but they're new car trades mostly.
Okay, cool. And then where were you born and raised?
Central New York.
Okay, so you're a New Yorker.
Yes, sir. Born and raised. You say that, and the audience thinks, Manhattan, flat pizza.
You have like a country vibe.
Yeah, no, I'm very country, bro. I grew up in Central New York. So think of this. You can go to, if you were an immigrant coming over the Atlantic into Long Island and into New York, you would get that, tenement houses, tall buildings, big city vibe. If you were to drive about 6 hours to the west and then another 3 hours north, you would be in Central New York, which is reminiscent of Wyoming, probably. I mean, just big hills, and I don't know Wyoming that well, so let's say Colorado, because I've never been to Wyoming. But, it's mountainous. There's a lot of topography. There's the Finger Lakes. There's wine. It's really, I don't know where else in the world that I've been that's like Central New York. Think going back in a time machine about 10 years and in a rural atmosphere, and that's Central New York.
So I would imagine Central New York, everything surrounding the city, the major cities of New York, I would imagine is more conservative, politically speaking.
1,000%.
Right?
Yeah, you go to downstate, bro, and it's as blue as, scuba gear, but you go up north and you're talking, it's a lot of farmers, it's a lot of shooters, it's a lot of people who are entrepreneurs, because up there you either own a business or you work at a factory, so you're 100% right.
Well, I guess New York, with them electing this new mayor, that only affects New York City. That doesn't affect...
That's the mayor of New York City, yes.
Okay, so...
The governor of New York State, however, interestingly enough, is not an elected official. Andrew Cuomo was our governor. He got kicked out of office over a sex scandal, and we were given Kathy Hochul.
Okay.
And that's a whole nother rabbit hole on its own.
We were potentially discussing on doing a podcast with Cuomo's brother.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Chris?
Trying to line that up, yeah.
So, I watch Patrick Bet David.
Yep.
And I see Chris on there, and I would love to have a conversation with Chris.
Yeah. Just
because I want to put a pry bar in and crack that shell open, because he is so calculated, bro.
Yeah.
Like, he's so damn calculated.
Yeah.
And I just want to get him off guard, get him on the spot, and I don't think anybody's ever done that to him.
Yeah.
And I think I could do that to him. I did it to Bernie Sanders yesterday.
Well, you were talking to Bernie Sanders?
Yes, I was in the the Reagan Airport in D.C.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there I was eating P.F. Chang's. My wife and kids were eating pizza. And my son goes, Mom, I think that's Jim Boeheim, who was SU basketball coach for many years. Okay. Similar posture, similar kind of skirted eggshell haircut, but nowhere near the same look. But to a 7-year-old, it's the same guy, right? So my wife goes, oh, no, honey, that's just Bernie Sanders. And I was like, yeah. She's like, no, really, it's Bernie Sanders. And then I hear this girl go, well, thank you, Mr. Senator. And I'm like, no shit.
Wow.
I turn and I look, bro, and as sure as you're born, sitting there in the regular waiting room chairs.
I'm surprised.
You and me both. You and me both.
I feel like it wouldn't be safe to.
Brother, my mind immediately went, this guy was a presidential candidate. He's he's a Democratic. He's the head of some committee, health and something committee. I don't want to speak out of turn, but he's the head of something. And, very prominent senator. He was just on Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah,
I'm figuring this guy's got a security detail. He's riding in a black limo and he's, private jetting it. No, bro, he got on an American Airlines flight and sat in first class on a puddle jumper. Yeah, right in front of me.
Wow.
But those situations, man, one thing I've learned over the years, I used to have imposter syndrome very badly. Yeah. My family brought me up in a way that felt like I wasn't worthy. Not because they didn't say, son, you're not worthy, but it's like, oh, look, there's so-and-so. Let me go, oh, no, don't bother those people.
Yeah.
Don't bother the rich people. We're not worthy, right? But then you learn over time the only way you get worthy is by immersing yourself and trying to provide value and iterating with these people. So I shed that skin a while ago, but I saw him sitting there and I'm like, you know what? And I fought it because I don't ever like to be that guy. And of course, my wife and my social media manager, she's like, get mic'd up, get over there with a camera. And what I know is the same reason that I had a great conversation with Dan Bilzerian in Vegas at at Flex's gym, Dragon's Lair. Shout out Flex Lewis and Dragon's Lair.
Working on Flex too.
Yeah,
we've been talking for years,
bro. I did a 45-minute kind of quasi pod with Flex. Yeah. He's a great guy, bro. Yeah, I was in his gym working out.
Genuine dude.
And there was Satem Ngali, a former. I think he was a Pro Bowler for the Patriots, great football player. Yeah. They're so friendly, just talking to me. And I'm like, dude. Hey, man, I got this sales thing I do. Would you mind? No, mic me up. Let's go. Yeah. And then I'm sitting there, and this other guy who's a friend of Satem was like, hey, Flex is here. Hey, Flex, come over and say hi to this guy. He's from New York. He drove all the way out here. He knows Brad. And Flex is like, where is he at? Oh, how are you doing, brother? Yeah, come right over here, And I'm like, ask him a few questions next thing. He's like, well, come on back to my podcast. Mic us up. We'll talk for a minute. And 45 minutes later, we have a great conversation. He's giving me a hug. Just good people.
He's Scottish, right?
It's Welsh. So, yeah. Bro, you're outside of my area of expertise. Yeah. So Welsh, I know he's Welsh. They call him the Welsh Dragon, okay? Yeah. So just back to the Bernie thing real quick. So I'm sitting there, and I'm debating, do I be that guy? Do I go over and just immerse myself, or do I sit back? And so I made the decision, no microphone, no camera. This conversation is going to happen for me and my soul, right? Yeah. So I go over there and I said, Mr. Sanders, and of course, mind you, I'm wearing a Hostile t-shirt, which is a bodybuilding brand, and it's Hoss, Hoss style. Shout out those guys. I don't get paid for that, but it's an American flag shaped like a gun and a skull. So what's this guy thinking the minute I roll up 6'4", 280, and he's like, hello? I'm like, yeah, how you doing, Mr. Senator? I just want to say I appreciate your service to the country. And, it was a good interview you had on Rogan. Oh, thank you very much. And these guys are looking like, is this a setup? And I was like, not for nothing. I know you debate and talk politics all day. I'm a potential voter that could be swayed. I'm a Republican leaning. I said, I don't go one way or the other. I kind of try to remain centrist. I said, but in the most recent election, I leaned Republican. I could be swayed. You've got some things that I hear that you say that I like. I've got some things that you say that I hear that I don't like so much. Your supporters that I have debated have failed miserably, with all due respect. I believe I should give the source a shot. Answer me honestly. Do you have a minute for a potential voter, or would you rather be left alone? And to Bernie Sanders' credit, he goes, my friend, it's a little bit of both, but sit down, make it quick. So we sit down. And we went through this discourse of him trying to logic trap me. This guy had no idea that I was a sales trainer, right? Yeah. Tried to logic trap me. And so, do you think America's a good country? I said, yeah, I think it's a great country. And what is it that makes a country a good country? Because we have a wealth disparity, and we have too many nuclear weapons, and we have this and that and this and that. I said, well, Mr. Sanders, I would look at the world stage, and I would see where are people in masses, in droves, trying to get to. And the United States is the only place I see where everybody's beating down our doors trying to get in. Yeah. So I would say that's a great country. And this dude just was silent.
Yeah, I just lost it.
That's a very good point. He goes, and then we just proceeded to do that, where he tried to trap me off. And then I would say, well, that's not a fair question. You're trying to give me a question with one answer, and there's not one answer to this question. So we did that for about 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden he goes, apparently we have two different opinions, and I got to go. And he just gets up and grabs his stuff and gets on the plane and goes away. So,
wow,
bro, huge victory in my book. And like 3 or 4 people came over. And they're like, "Sir, who are you? What's your name? What did he say? He's upset. How did you?" And it's just like, no. What happened is a career politician who's so used to being placated and kowtowed to just got held to the fire by a regular citizen in a T-shirt that he wasn't expecting to have that type of debate skill, and he got hosed, And shout out Bernie Sanders, incredibly professional, very kind, willing to have the conversation, easily frustrated, physically very frail, but super nice guy. And I got nothing but respect for someone who's willing to have the conversation.
It's crazy. You'll see a lot of ideology will correspond, at least generally, people will portray the average Republican, conservative individual, especially man, as just some big brute that is unintelligent. So when you do sit down and you're calm, cool, collected, and able to articulate not opinions, but also facts and data, it blows a lot of people away because you don't fit the standard, the image of like, oh, he's a Republican, he loves guns, he's an idiot, he's just big buff, etc.
Yep.
And it's super cool. And even vice versa. Anytime I meet a Democrat, I typically expect there to be some blue-haired freak that identifies as a toaster oven. So if I do meet a Democrat that is intelligent, cool, calm, collected, can voice something more than just emotion and have facts and data.
That's the word.
And is 6'4", 280, which I don't think I've met to this day. But if I ever do, respect, because that's unique. It's typically different. Because there's a lot of individuals on both sides that are so extreme that they're just matching this persona that's portrayed publicly of like, you got your conservatives, your Republicans. Like what I'm not happy with right now that we're talking politics, is Andrew Schultz, and then they just dropped a good podcast and made really good points on, we voted for the destruction of bureaucracy, and we voted for the exposure of the pedophilia ring, such as the Epstein list and Diddy, et cetera, and all of these things that are occurring, all of a sudden for it to be thrown under the table. I didn't vote for that. You know what I mean? And I don't think you voted for that either.
I didn't. Here's my position. I just try to look at everything objectively, right? Yeah. And sometimes probably to a fault, but I so many times personally, I have made a wrong or a poor decision based out of emotion.
Yeah.
And now that I focus on training salespeople all day, every day, the one continual just thing that continues to rear its head is that failing in an emotional aspect, meaning not being able to control your emotions, is the precursor to all bad sales, non-closed sales, pissed off customers. Pretty much you can attribute most things that happen negatively in life to a bad emotional decision a lot of the time. And what I notice is that in politics, there's so much that's driven by emotion that I try to always look at everything objectively, because in the 2020 election, bro, I threw things across my office. I had friends that I told them, if Trump doesn't win, I'll give you $500 cash. Do you know how much cash I paid out? Okay, because I'm a man of my word. It was a lot of money, probably $5,000, which isn't a lot to some people, but in Central New York, that's a few coins.
Yeah.
And I just was so devastated. And then seeing the numbers spike when they did it, and then for the media to act like all of that was no big deal, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay if you have an explanation. You said the word facts. Back it up with facts. I can reason with anything if you back it up with facts. But when you tell me this is what happened, that's the way it's going to be, let's move on, it's like, no. And when someone else is in control of that narrative, what are you going to do, right? But as far as politics are concerned, this recent thing with Epstein, I did a video, and it's a good performing video. It's got about 325,000 views right now, but more so a ton of comments. I mean, close to 10,000 comments by now. And it's all people, we voted for the list, we didn't get the list. And so I did a little research about the list. What is the list? What was the list? And then I kind of parlayed back some questions to the followers, like, what list? You know the list. And I'm like, yeah, I know the list, but what is the list? When has it ever been referenced, the list? I know there was Epstein's black book that had all the addresses of people, like most guys who came up through the 80s and 90s had a black book. My dad had one. I had one as a little kid. Like, that's a thing, but that was released many moons ago, years ago, okay? Not to mention, Democrats had access to the Epstein files for all these years. People are saying that it indicates Trump. If it indicated Trump, you don't think, they tried to incarcerate him and throw felony charges at him and indict him and Russia collusion and Steele dossier and all these things. You don't think if they had a glaring Trump-Epstein connection documented on a list that they wouldn't have brought that forth before the election? You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that don't line up. And as far as the list is concerned, I went with ChatGPT and I'm like, yo, what's the list? And they're like, oh, it's been purported in the media, da-da-da. What is the list? There's actually no credible actual list.
Wow.
People have created the list, okay?
Yeah.
And by all means, anybody in the
Propaganda.
exactly. Now call this out. I'm not saying that I'm a scholar on this, but what I'm saying is I know what I researched, and it wasn't just Chat GPT. I searched far and wide for about 3 hours last night and the night before for the list. There's Pam Bondi's candid interview, where she was overheard saying that there's tens of thousands of videos of children, which correct, but that's not a list, okay? And then the black book that had names and addresses of business associates, okay? They had the flight logs, which indicated Clinton and Prince Charles and all these things, but there's no list.
Yeah.
You know, and people are like, well, they didn't release the list. It's like people have created this thought process that this potentially Mossad-connected intelligence guy with all these resources kept a Excel spreadsheet of everyone that he was doing nefarious business dealings with in case ever it came to light, they would have a nice, easy access to everybody involved. Like, that's not logical to me. So just to your point on that list, I think people are looking for something that's not there, okay? Do I think that it was purported that there was going to be some mass unearthing of information and the dam's going to break and the levee's going to pour clean and we're going to get all the information? Yes. Did that happen? No. And that's why people are pissed off. But it's politics, man. I'm going to get this done. Well, we got in here and we found out there was no this, so there's no getting this done. Anyways, on to the next thing. So I'm in the middle on that. You know, do I think that they're savory in their behavior? Absolutely not. No one ever is. Do I think that they're leveraging some information to try to get deals done? Absolutely. But, you know, I don't know.
What do you think is the next major thing that's going to occur politically?
Politically, I mean, the big, beautiful bill is happening. I think we're going to, honestly, man, I think we're in for kind of an economic renaissance period. I think that Donald Trump is a chart and numbers driven guy, and all he cares about is 90 days from now, 90 days from then, 90 days from then, being able to say, well, boom, 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 the numbers are here and the numbers are better and the chart's going up and so on and so forth. And that's his major focus and whatever he's got to do to make that happen.
He has a big issue with the guy that controls the Federal Reserve, correct?
Yes.
What's that guy? Is it Abbott?
God, no. Oh, shit. You had to ask me. But you're 100% right. He's trying to get him fired. He wants interest rates down to 1%. And the guy's fighting him tooth and nail about it. I don't know. I could look it up for you. I'm not read in well enough to say, Tristan, there's a lot of things. Who is the chair of the Federal Reserve? Guy's name is Jerome Powell. There we go. I knew once I said it, I was going to be pissed. So him and Jerome Powell definitely have a bone to pick with one another.
Yeah.
But, you know, my opinion on the situation is, and this is kind of how I have to be, I can't do anything about it. The only thing I can do is vote, right?
Yeah.
I cast my vote. I voted for Donald Trump. I felt he was the lesser of the two evils, and that as an entrepreneur, you
want to do business with the devil, you know, and we all have devil inside of us. I hate when individuals try to. There's a lot of virtue signaling on social media. I've been very conflicted with like posting my scripture and things like that because I don't want to be lumped into this crowd of which I love. Physical fitness, the cold plunging, the routines, manifestation, and all of that. But at the end of the day, in correspondence even with my faith in Christianity and belief in Jesus Christ, we have all fallen short and we will always fall short of the glory of God. No matter what I put on social media and try to portray, I'm a man that sins every day. Swear, smoke, I want to hurt people. I really want to hurt people sometimes. You know what I mean? And I'm a man. Yeah. And so I acknowledge that. And so when I look at these individuals that try to portray themselves as these, you know, heroes on social media or different things like that, it makes me not want to do what they're doing. And so I look at all of it and I'm like, that's not what we are as mankind. What we are is to acknowledge that we are imperfect. Whoever you pray to, whatever you believe in, we are imperfect. And that's a big thing that I think we're missing right now because everybody wants to try to one-up the other. It's far deeper than comparison is the thief of joy right now. Now it's like we're comparing and looking to like maliciously attack each other and not in a manly way. Not like I will come confront you face to face. Like I'm going to make an Instagram video.
Clickety-click.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to shit talk and this and it's like, that's why I think I like fighting so much. I can face the devils that I know, such as in fighting. You're going to punch me in the face. It's going to hurt.
It's going to hurt.
I'm going to punch you back in the face.
But I step in the ring knowing the punch is coming.
Exactly.
Right. And I don't hate you for punching me.
Correct. And what
You're built different, bro.
We are. You know what I mean? I think we're like a rare breed. And I tell people this. I voted for Trump as well. And it's because of the devil that I'm familiar with. these are the type of people I do business with businessmen. I know what to expect.
I know the guy is not faithful to his wife. I know that he makes underhanded business dealings. I know that what he does is not savory. I know that nobody at that level is.
Yes.
So what do I know? I know that he's open and forthcoming about his malfunctions. Correct. And I know that he's willing to tell you Rosie O'Donnell is a pig. Do I think that's a nice thing to say? No. But do I respect the fact that he's shading his opinion when someone says, what do you think of Rosie O'Donnell? Well, Rosie, she's had her success. Yes. And there may be some things that we don't align in the back of their head. I hate that freaking see you next Tuesday. No, I want the guy that's like, Rosie O'Donnell is a pig. Yeah. Okay, I don't think that really did numbers for your status and your stature politically and societally, but man, I respect the fact that you said, because I know exactly how you feel. Yes. I know what your position is. And a guy like Chris Cuomo, you were talking about Cuomo, that's a guy that pisses me off. I would pay half of what's in my savings account, and that's not true. I'd pay a lot of money to sit down with Chris Cuomo just to be able to get on camera and crack him open and make him behave like a human being because he is so goddamn calculated. And first of all, shout out Chris Cuomo, nothing but respect for the guy. He's, I mean, talk about articulate and suave and savvy. He wrote the book, but that's a guy that I look at him and I go, you don't feel that way. You're playing the devil's advocate. You're full of shit. You watch him on PBD and he's playing the devil's advocate and they're parlaying these questions back and forth. And you watch Bet David, he's like, oh, Chris, because he knows better, right? Yeah. Cuomo is a perfect example of a guy that drives me insane because all he's doing is driving reviews or ratings, excuse me. That's all he wants to do, right? And it's like, dude, I don't want to watch you. Because I know all you're doing is trying to get people to emotionally move to one corner or the other to up your ratings, right? Yeah. Now, Bet David, on the other hand, he's, I feel, much more intelligent because he creates a panel. Who's on that panel? Oftentimes, Chris Cuomo. Who else is on the panel? The dude from Young Turks, I forget his name, and then Anna Kasparian, and then, Ben Shapiro. He has them all there. Okay, you represent this side, you represent that side. Yeah. How do you feel? How do you feel? Okay. This is how I feel. And then he generalizes it and summarizes it for his audience. And you know what's crazy about Patrick Bet David is when he makes that summary, everybody goes, yeah. I think that guy brought a lot of people. They talk about people having effects on the election. What's that?
He's a connector.
1000%. That's what he does, bro. It's what his PHP was. He just connected people.
We're in the same model. So.
It's for the insurance thing. I did a little research on you, and I was curious about that because you seem like you got bitten by a venomous snake in that industry.
We have a similar story. I read Your Next 5 Moves, and I was right around 23, 24 years old, and that's right around when I had a bad partnership, and I was in a captive model. So if you've read Your Next 5 Moves.
Yes. I'm reading it right now. Okay. I read Your Next 15 Moves before Your Next 5 Moves. My wife just bought me it for anniversary.
We had a similar story, and right around the same, I think he was a little older when he broke off from his captive organization to start his own organization. And
for the listeners, that's a model where you as an agent are just are driven to bring more agents and less driven to drive to help the consumer, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Almost like MLM.
Correct. Okay. Exactly. And everything is there's multiple levels to everything for the most part in the sales world. Right. But that is strictly limited, no ownership, no equity, no real exit plan, great cash flow. I had good cash flow and everything like that, but not enough to sustain my ultimate vision goals and
not to mention you brought in all this money and you got a 1099 with a couple $1 million on it, but then no residuals.
Got a fraction of that too as well. So like not only but the thing is I was comparing to what I grew up in and growing up with both my parents in jail and my mom coming out and raising us on food stamps, me making $2,500, $3,000 a week was, at 20 years old, 21 years old, I was like, oh, I'm, multimillionaire.
Yes.
When in all reality, millions of dollars were going through a bank account that I just, didn't have access to, but my name was on it.
You were driving all this money to this place and so young and naive that you're going, well, I've never had this kind of money before. This is fantastic. Meanwhile, the guy at the top of the food chain was going, we like this Tristan guy.
And thank God for indirect mentors. I've got to meet Pat 3 times and not on a one-on-one basis yet, but thank God for individuals like that. Bro. Yeah, absolutely. That, educate you indirectly and just stand up for what they believe in and try to help. And that's kind of what I'm doing now is trying to help others that are in a similar position.
Gotcha.
Wake them up.
It's very valiant, man. It's funny talking about that. I had a similar awakening, but in a very different way. I was working for a guy making him millions of dollars and I was getting 10% commission. Yeah. So, I'm doing $1.6, $1.7 million for the guy. I'm from Central New York, bro. $100,000 a year in Central New York is like, you live in the rich neighborhood, right? Yeah. So, executives at local factories are making $180, $220. So I'm this kid making 160, 170 grand. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is life is made, right? Yeah, but I had a similar awakening like you. I'm like, okay, it was like 11 months. I made like 168 grand. At the end of those 11 months, I was like, I got to go do this all over again.
Correct.
Like these customers are coming back every year and getting serviced and he's getting residual income off it. But I got to go do this all over again. Correct. Not to mention, When I came in here, their highest producing salesperson was making 80 grand a year, was doing just shy of $1 million, $800,000 a year in sales. I came in 11 months, I doubled that. There's something about me that's built different than these people, but was still using drugs and still in the fog of narcotics to not be able to see it clearly. And to this man's testament and basically a thanks to him, when I got out of prison, I went back working for him after I tried some other things and got robbed. And I started selling for him again. And he says, you're clear of mind. No, you're sober. You're doing good. You should not be selling. You're an entrepreneur. You need to go start a business. And I'm like, well, yeah, I think so too. But he's like, and long story short, he staked me $150,000, which is a lot of money in Central New York, to open a small used car dealership. And that's the beginning of my trend upward, is somebody saw in me. Yeah. And he knew that I was having these feelings of, man, this guy would not be making all this money without me. And he knew I was about to ask for a bigger cut of the money. Yeah. But that was his goose that laid the golden egg. And he could put 2 guys in, because it was all commission. So he could put 2 guys in to do what I was doing and have it net cost him nothing additional. But if I asked for a bigger percentage, it was going to be a 5 or 10% reduction in profit to him. Yeah. So he said, well, let me just move this guy over here. I'll partner with him. I know he wants to be an entrepreneur. And we made a deal where for 4 years, I ran these dealerships. We split the profits, which I was perfectly happy with, because 50% was a hell of a lot more than 10%. Yeah. And he was getting 50% of the millions I was making over here versus what I was making over there. Right. It worked out better for both of us. And then after 4 years, he's a man of his word, man. He sold me a business that was valued for $12.5 million for 36 grand. Wow. Because he said at the outset, whether you win, lose, or draw, when this is over with, 12 months, $3 grand a month, the business is yours. And in the 5th year, I paid him $3,000 a month for 12 months, and he sold me the business. So shout out Rich Lester, good man. But that situation was very similar to the awakening that you had, except you had a nefarious actor, and maybe it was a spider web that existed that you walked into. But either way, he's pillaging this young man who's working his ass off.
And I just talked about this on the way over here. Some guy had called me. He's like, "I'm glad, because we actually spoke. We went through this partnership split up, which is like a divorce. You get lawyers, you sign documents. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say this. I'm not going to do that." And very quickly, I think initially I was, upset, but more so upset because society was telling me to be upset. But, how I was raised and the adversity and things that I went through, which in the grand scheme of things, in comparison to the world, American adversity is nothing. You know what I mean? So
didn't get your arm chopped off by rebels in Uganda.
Yeah, literally. So it's like
we're eating.
But it did callous my mind enough to business is fun. It's different than fighting. You know what I mean? It's typically a longer pain. Fighting, you get punched in the face, you run out of breath, you get punched, kicked in the stomach, and things. It hurts for a couple minutes.
Not to mention you can see the punch coming.
You can see it coming. You know what I mean? Like business, you get stabbed in the back and things like that. Stupid stuff happen. It might cost you a couple years of your life. Different. It's a slower pain, which sometimes can be worse. But it doesn't really faze me. I've been broke, and I guess this will sound like Wolf of Wall Street, but I've been broke and I've been middle class, I guess, in a sense, and I've luckily been able to make over $1 million a year now since 22, 23 years old in gross money, which put me in the top 1% of my age group. And I don't think about the money and the relationships where I've gotten backstabbed. I think I get super caught up into even deeper thoughts. Mm-hmm. And I think about death a lot.
Really?
Yeah, like my loved ones and myself. And
interesting. So do I.
I'm like, the money can come and go. Like I just want to max out my life and be super impactful to my mom, my sister, my girl, which will be my future wife, and everybody that's involved, and especially myself. Like I owe it to me, and it's like if ultimately as a man I want to be number one in everything, but not because of the money, just like my natural desire.
Your measuring stick isn't money.
Yeah, it isn't the money. It's if there's a competition, it's winning. You know what I mean? Like
yes.
I want to be the best for myself because I owe it to myself and those that are involved in my life. But the byproduct is the money and the the accolades and all those things that occur. But the true product for me is who you become in the process. Like I feel like unlocking new levels mentally.
How old are you, bro?
26.
Way wise beyond your years.
Yeah, and I think wisdom though is just a reflection of pain. That's why a lot of guys when I told you in the very beginning of with padding up views and shit like that for all of us, everybody does it. Everybody out there, I do it, you do it. Everybody pads up their shit.
100%.
But I told you can quickly decipher who's real and who's not real based off of it's not just what they say, it's an energy. And I feel like you can kind of I look to feel the pain in someone's voice, and the less pain I feel, like the less credible they are to me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like maybe in respect to the people that inherit success, but like I look at a guy like Donald Trump that inherited millions, but he went through I don't care who you are. 90% of lottery winners lose all of the money.
Yep.
It does not matter. You know what I mean? We could give you, everybody's like, well, if you just give us like the socialistic.
Give me $100 million and I'll be a billionaire too.
Yeah,
no,
like,
you won't.
No, bro.
You have 3 Ferraris with no insurance on them.
It'll all be gone in a matter of years. So it's like, I look for that pain. And, you know, I think of that iconic image where Trump, you know, I still don't know how they haven't revealed more information on this kid that tried to assassinate Trump in Pennsylvania. That's a whole other topic. We could go down that rabbit hole. But I think of that image where he stands up and he throws his arm just after getting shot. And I'm thinking to myself, that's what I want. You know what I mean? I want that, like, could you imagine? Have you ever been shot at?
Actually, yes.
Like, I can't imagine that feeling of being like, I've been around guns.
I didn't turn around and go fight. I kept running.
Bro. You know,
I took a little 22
am I
slug
gonna
to my
piss
ankle.
myself? Am I running? Am I
Right.
like, what am I doing? And it's like, the president, like, there is no, like, you're in the midst of getting shot at, and he just stands up, and it's like, you don't know if that for me is worth every dollar in the world, is chasing that thrill.
Yes.
You know?
Yep. Dude, you said something really powerful just now, and I forget exactly what it was, but it alluded to the fact that you can feel the energy from an individual. In not to parlay this into a conversation about sales training, but it's very relevant. So in P2P, the sales training company that I own and I run, we talk about the frequency of authenticity. Okay. Yeah. And this all sparked from a conversation. I try to always give credit where it's due, right? Gary Brecka, who's a very controversial figure in social media right now, him and the Grant Cardone thing.
You think he was forced to do that?
Bro, I think if you listen to his side of the story, when he told it on PBD, that was all the truth. Yeah. Because if you watch when he got in front of Cardone and they had their podcast, like nothing about that dynamic showed you anything other than that. Cardone sat there and was power playing him and chest puffing him. And, come on, Gary, you really don't feel that way, right, buddy? And, you know, Grant, like this is a guy that got in way above his head. He got bit by the entrepreneurial bug. He thought that these people had the public's best interest in mind, and we were going to bring this medicinal value to the marketplace. You're going to give me your money, and we're going to take over the world. When in all reality, it was, no, we're going to take your medicinal magic, and we're going to pump a bunch of money into it and make it to the point where we can strong arm you out of your own business and keep the intellectual property. And that's just the way it goes, man. And, you know, Grant Cardone, you know, is a very controversial figure. He doesn't need any more press than he gets already, but you can't take anything away from the fact that the guy's done what he's done. He's not in jail and he's got what he's got. Yeah. Just like Trump, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you have to pay some respect to that. But regarding what you said about the energy, bro, Brecka said this thing and it was like, they did a study and they measured people in a Faraday cage. You know, Michael Faraday created the Faraday case, like they have for the phones to keep the waves away from you while you're sleeping. And they had Faraday cages that they put human beings in, and they studied human beings in heightened emotional states. And I don't want to misquote the minutia, okay? They can research the footnotes appropriately, but the general thesis was human beings emit waveforms. They are measurable on laboratory equipment. And these waveforms are indicative of their emotional state. Angry looks a certain way. Loss and grieving looks a certain way. Excitement, passion, lust, all look a certain way. The largest waveform volume and the most the one that you could feel the most, had the most effect, was the frequency of an authentic, engaged conversation. So like you and I've kind of got a little bit of that going right now. Like you don't know me from a bag of dicks. I don't know you well either. We know what we know on social media. We're in the same place, same time, chose to get together. And the long and the short of it is, as we're sitting here, we're kind of discovering there's some similarities, went through some similar pain. So these waves are kind of building. And that's why the conversation gets a flow and a snowball behind it. Same thing happens with other human beings, happens in sales. It's called the law of constructive interference. So these waveforms are emitted by human beings. The frequency of authenticity is 4 times larger a waveform, ergo 4 times more powerful, and you can feel it 4 times more. We're talking about at a microscopic level, right? So take a water droplet and make it 4 times as big. It's a significant difference. It's orders of magnitude larger, but it's a real thing, bro. The same way that if you walk into a room, you can kind of hear or feel that a TV's on because it emits a particular energy and a sound. The human condition is the same way. We emit an energy that's an actual frequency. So when people talk about, your vibrations, it's a real thing, bro. It's a real thing, and they've studied it, and it's real, and it's not widely talked about, which it then, stirs that curiosity bug as to why, because you could accomplish so much with that. But what I teach my trainees in sales training is, listen, if somebody, and I give the example of, if somebody comes in and they're looking at it for a car salesman, they're looking at a pickup truck. And they get back from the test drive and you serve them the numbers and they go, I don't know, Tristan, what do you think? Would you buy that truck? If you would buy the truck, enthusiastically tell him yes. But if you wouldn't buy that truck, don't do what most salespeople do, which is say, oh yeah, it's a great truck, man. Hell yeah, I'd buy that thing, because they're not going to feel authenticity behind that. And you're not going to know why they said, I just want to think about it, but you're going to have affected them in that way and have no idea what the solution is, because you didn't even know that you caused that issue. When in all reality, if you just say, me, honestly, no, brother. Here's the thing. I don't tow jet skis like you do. Not a big fan of the color brown. And I don't need heated seats and a panoramic moonroof. And I couldn't probably afford that truck. However, if you're asking if I think it's a great truck for you, checks everything on the list, man. It's the best selling truck in America. Of course you should buy the truck. That guy's going to go, huh. Well, I appreciate that answer. You actually told me no. I believe you, because if you had just said yes, I probably wouldn't have believed you. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That authentic conversation, bro, that's why Donald Trump won the presidency.
Correct. Because
he sat on the Joe Rogan podcast and was like, I don't know what to tell you, Joe. They may not like the answer, but that's the answer. And, they're going to deal with a few years of pain when we put these tariffs in. It's just what's going to happen. But if you want to get there, you got to go here. And people went for once like, he's not just saying what he thinks we want to hear. He's saying what's actually going to happen with no buffer or no filter to political correctness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I appreciate what you said about that energy, because it's a very real thing, man. And I think if more people in business were to recognize that and just can call things like they see them and be honest, people don't understand that true success. Like we talk about guys like Bet David and Cardone and Trump and, these heavy hitters. You walk into a room with Bet David and you try to act as if, he's going to sniff out bullshit in 2 seconds and be like, okay, man, here's your autograph. Here's a book. Have a nice day, right? Yeah. But you come in there, talk about your real pain. This is a guy that left Iran when the Shah was falling and bombs were blowing up bridges behind him as he left. He's been in the thick of it. Like he understands pain, right? And what most people don't get, like for instance, you're going to aspire to a very high level in business. You know that, okay? I've done well. I'm going to do a hell of a lot better. We're only on an upward trajectory. But someday there'll be that moment when somebody far lower on the food chain is looking for assistance. And you know just as well as I do, if that person's just like, listen, here's where I'm at, here's where I'm screwing up, I don't know what to do, could you help me? You're far more apt to help that person than you are the guy that comes in with the Ray-Bans and the rented Lamborghini and tries to act as if. You dig what I'm saying? And if more people could just respect that, man, and be authentic, I think people would be amazed at how much fruit their tree would bear if they would just be more of an authentic human being.
1,000%. Yeah, bro, 1,000%. You mentioned one thing in there in regard to, and this is more politically charged again, I'm just so curious and everything going on, Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Elon Musk's take is this big, beautiful bill is horrendous because we are increasing spend, and it seems like he feels he's wasted his time. They're essentially going at one another. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm really glad that you asked me that, because I've been hoping someone would ask me that question just so I could platform it publicly. Elon Musk is way too emotional, okay?
Yeah.
I have, and let me preface that by saying I have nothing but respect and admiration for Elon Musk, okay?
Yeah.
You can talk about any negative thing. Read the book on Elon Musk. Have you read that book?
Which one?
The one written by, the one where his face is on it's called Musk, I think, or Elon Musk.
Actually.
Okay, so I'm sorry, did you or no?
I would have to check my
You would remember if you did.
It.
It talks about how he got the shit kicked out of him. And
I remember hearing those stories. So I audiobook 90% of my books.
Me too.
I feel like I don't retain a lot of the information, to be honest.
Again, you're being authentic. I don't think anybody does, Tristan. You take a few things. You know who said this, and I had a conversation with, and I really appreciated, was Ty Lopez. You know who he is, the internet marketer guy. Really genuine conversation. A lot of people don't like him. I only measure people by the interactions that I have with him.
Yeah.
And he basically said, Luke, I've read thousands of books.
Yeah.
I usually take like one idea from each one.
Correct.
And he's like, if you can read a whole book to get a life-changing idea, the book is worth the read. The juice is worth the squeeze. I agree wholeheartedly. So the Elon Musk thing, you read his book, you understand this guy endured more pain than most people in a childhood than most people could stomach in a lifetime, and then went on with Asperger's to build rockets and dig holes in the ground and build Teslas and PayPal and all this shit. Like, you can't have anything but respect for a guy like that. I don't care what malfunctions he has. You got to respect what he's done, right? So, but here's what I also know. I know that Elon Musk, he reminds me of like that Hollywood kid celebrity, got success so far, so fast, so quick, didn't have time to emotionally or developmentally mature. Yeah. And I think right now his feelings are hurt. Donald Trump hurt his feelings. He thought they were buddies. Yeah. And he sat next to him with the black 45 hat and Make America Great Again in his tech support shirt, and he was like, I'm the right-hand man to the president. And Donald Trump knows how to play people like a deck of cards, so he got exactly what he needed from him, right? I think was undyingly loyal to Elon Musk. I've never seen Donald Trump be that loyal and speak that well or that highly of anybody.
Yeah.
So I think that it was a 50-50 exchange. But there comes a point where Elon Musk has to go, this is politics. There is going to be a bill. Elon Musk thought that Donald Trump was going to drop a gavel and never spend any money again. We're just going to bring money in. We'll figure it out. We're going to get rid of the national debt in a couple of years, and everything will be hunky dory. Like Donald Trump is making calculated plays. And again, I'm not stroking Donald Trump here. This is just what I see from a business standpoint. He's making calculated plays that, as long as all the chess pieces go where they're supposed to, his administration, and then Vance's administration, and then potentially Rubio's administration, he's setting all these guys up for future presidencies. I believe this is a 20-year play that he's making right now. With he's trying to change the face of economics in America. It's not going to happen in 4 years.
Do you think it'll go to central banking?
What's that?
Do you think it'll go to a central banking?
I don't want to make that call yet. I don't know. I can't make that call because I'm not read in well enough on it. I don't know his opinions on certain things, and if I did, I probably could make a more informed statement.
The incorporation of Bitcoin?
I think that Donald Trump knows that digital currency is inevitable. I think we all kind of know that. I think that this right here is ubiquitous now, and everybody's going to have, Apple Pay. It still, to me, it's amazing what I can do with Apple Pay, right?
Really, it's crazy.
So to think that we're, going to be anything but hey, Tristan, you got my 20. Yep. Click, boom. Okay, we're good. Like, I think that's inevitable, right? Yeah. The devices are ubiquitous. The mindset's there. The technology is birthed into the hands of the people, meaning it's for people like me at 41 years old. I didn't see one of these even in the form of a flip phone until I was about 14, 15 years old. And it didn't become an iPhone until I was 18, 19 years old, right? Yeah. So I've lived half my life without that. You've lived your entire life with it. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. So now it's a ubiquitous device that everybody's accepted as normal, right? So as time goes on, it's only going to become more so. So digital currency, transfer of funds through the phone, Neuralink chips implanted into the brain, augmenting human ability with computers. All this stuff is coming. It's an inevitability. I think we're ultimately leaning towards and getting towards consciousness being uploaded. Like, I really believe that. Some rich guy somewhere, potentially Musk, is going to find a way to upload his consciousness into a computer and live forever. That's a real thing. They've studied it. It's possible. And we're going down a rabbit hole that's going to take too much time. But to your question about Elon Musk and Donald Trump, Elon Musk is an emotional, old young man whose feelings are hurt and thought that Donald Trump was just going to do everything in the revolutionary way. There are still some things that have to be American politics. A bill needed to happen. I haven't read all the earmarks. I don't know what's in the bill. I'm sure there's a lot of pork, bullshit, fat in there. But you also have to understand that Donald Trump made a lot of promises to get elected. Like, do you think he got all that money from all his donors by not saying, okay, once I get there, we'll do a bill and we'll get you some, a few bucks? And it's American politics, right? Yeah. But you have to step back, just like when a business is acquired, right? What's going on full scope, right? Like, okay, we went from Keurigs to Nespresso, didn't like that move. Okay, we went from Apple computers to Windows, didn't like that move either. But our company's net worth just went up at $1.6 billion over the course of the year. So, like, do we really care about these moves if the greater good is being served? Yeah. And I think Donald Trump is just moving the charts and moving the numbers. And this bill was, if you thought you were going to get through 4 years without a spending bill, I think you were delusional. And I think instead of Elon Musk sitting back and calculating what's going on and how far we've come and taking that into consideration, I think he's just mad because he said, I don't want this bill, and he did it anyways. Mm-hmm. Not to mention the electric car subsidies and stuff bites him and Tesla. Yeah. But now I feel like he's gone down he's just jumped in with concrete shoes on, because now Tesla stock is dropping. He's showing himself to be a very emotional CEO. I just don't think it's a good look for Musk right now.
But Steve Jobs is very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe do you think that could be a trait? I read this really good book.
Absolutely.
I think it was called The Hypomaniac.
Okay.
Phenomenal book. I think it just there was a couple books that I got from Patrick David's recommendations. I think one was Hypomaniac, and then another was something. And I think Hypomaniac specifically just talked on individuals that almost have this manic state. Mm-hmm. And if they can tame it or control it or direct it outside of like drugs, mm-hmm. they can do significant things.
Hyperproductive.
It's almost like a trait that we all share at a higher level of success. Because I was reading, I was like, I'm kind of nuts then, I guess.
Bro, there's a whole rabbit hole to go down there too. Right? Let me ask you this question. Do you ever feel like you have ADD?
I feel like I got all of them, whatever, everything, OCD, ADD.
Have you ever, autism. I don't want to go down this hole because it's kind of a personal question, but have you ever used drugs and alcohol?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're open about that or not.
No,
I'm a drug addict. Yeah. I'm recovered and sober.
I think I had my first Bud Light at like 6.
Okay.
I grew up in the South.
So narcotics,
I never did a bunch of I remember pills never really did anything to me. I took a couple oxys when I was in high school, and I didn't feel shit. I was like, did I take enough?
Okay.
I don't know.
You mentioned fighting.
Yeah.
When you fight, are you hyper focused?
Hyper focused, chill. I feel high. There's like a euphoria.
Bro, thank you so much for walking right into my trap.
Yeah,
but it's a kind trap, okay? Meaning I wanted you to say something like that, okay? So, Tristan, high performers often suffer from ADD, okay?
Yeah.
I have ADD. I'm not a doctor. I'd be willing to bet you have ADD. Elon Musk has ADD, okay? People who operate at this hyper state of awareness and efficacy and productivity at all times generally have ADD. Why? Because people don't understand, I don't think, at scale, okay, what ADD actually is. And I'm not a doctor and I'm not a professor, so I don't want to get into the details, but I can tell you at a flyover view what ADD is. It is a naturally occurring deficit
Attention
of dopamine.
Deficit, yeah.
Well, attention deficit disorder, but you may as well call it dopamine deficit disorder. Here's what goes on. You got ADD, I got ADD. When we're like right now, we're engaged. This is giving you dopamine.
Yeah,
it's giving
we're
me
not
the
engaged.
lights. But when you get in your car and you're driving, you're like, okay, music. Okay, phone call. Okay, check the stocks.
Yeah.
Okay, like you need a stimulus. You need something to focus on. Like right now, okay, the legs.
I can't stop. Yeah.
It's a trait of people who are high performers because here's what happens. The average human being gets this regulated amount of dopamine that's flowing through our systems at all time. The same high that you or I get from business or fighting or some sort of like a sexual experience, we get a high off that and we're satiated for a bit. Most human beings just get a regulated amount of that at all times, okay? Yeah. So we have a deficit of it. So when we're normal, quiet, static, we're going insane. Like, okay, like you wake up and it's like, okay, what am I doing? Where are we going? What's the next stimulus, right? And which is why young kids with ADD are constantly jumping and bouncing and talking and da-da-da-da-da and playing video games because they need some sort of stimulus. So Elon Musk, all the high performers that we're talking about, yourself and myself included, we seek stimulus. When we get a financial win, we get stimulus. When we close a deal, we get a big fucking stimulus. Yeah. When we mac a girl, that's a phrase from showing I'm 40 years old, okay? You get a stimulus. So we constantly seek stimulus. So if you're constantly seeking stimulus the way I used to, in a negative way, you're always looking to steal money, get high, cheat on your wife, like not wife, I've never done that, girls, okay? Love my wife, shout out Nikki, okay? But we're always looking for a stimulus, okay? Now, when you're a healthy addict or ADD sufferer or whatever you want to call it, I use addict just because that's who I am. I'm addicted to something at all times. That's why I look like I look, because if I'm not working in the gym, spending time with my kids, doing something stimulated in some way, I'm going insane. So when you find a way to channel that into hyperproductivity, that's when people climb the ladder. They've been able to realize that they have a malfunction, and I won't say malfunction, but that's an abnormality in some way. Once they realize it's a lack of dopamine and that they're seeking stimulus, they just learn to seek positive stimulus and productive stimulus. Once you channel that and you get in that groove, bro, it's off to the races. That's why I've been able to have the level of success I've had so quickly. I had an entire decade where I got nothing accomplished. I was addicted to drugs. I had a decade before that, which was a terrible childhood. But from the age of 31 to 41, that decade, I've accomplished more than most people I know do in a lifetime. And that's not braggadocio or arrogance. That's just reality.
I made a really, really good take on this, kind of a viral take a couple of years ago, because I've been running sales teams since I was like 20, 21 years old. Mm-hmm. And collectively, it's all been around my age group.
Yep.
And so I've dealt with a lot of and attracted a lot of individuals like myself that believe in law of attraction to an extent and everything like that. And I would tell kids, I came up with this clip just in my morning reading and shit like that of ADHD and ADD doesn't exist. It's VDD. And I just told them you have a vision deficit, because I would sit there and it completely corresponds with what you're saying. You just make it sound way better. And you sit there and kids like us in school, we're not paying attention in English class. Reason being is you're looking at this fat English teacher that drives a Toyota Prius. And for me, it was like my disconnect was the vision. Like, this is where my life is headed. This is boring. This is disgusting. I want to go home and play Call of Duty. I want to go get girls. I want to go fight, play football, etc. Something that was more thrilling, exciting. If the English teacher in 8th grade is jacked and has, sexy girlfriend, sexy wife, and has a Lamborghini and a massive house, you know what I mean? Like, I've made more money than all of the teachers. I would think so, and respectfully, you know what I mean? We need teachers, we need individuals like that. But like all of the downplay and negative connotations and just communication I had from all those teachers to where I'm at now is insane. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it makes sense. I'm like, I had bad grades because I didn't really give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It wasn't a lack of intelligence.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like you see the image or the meme where it's like, it's all these animals lined up, by like a waterfront, and there's a tree behind them. And it's like, if we were to ask, all these animals, to go climb that tree back there, and we're going to measure that, that'll be their IQ measurement. Ultimately, the monkey is going to be the smartest. You know what I mean? But the goldfish we throw in the water, and now the goldfish is the smartest. So it's like your intelligence isn't measured just off of one simple, educational metric or tool. You know what I mean? Especially scholastically. So I don't know. I completely agree with that. I love that. You know what I mean? I try to remind myself and share that with others all the time, because it's like, if you find yourself, distracting yourself with negative things and negative reinforcement habits, activities, whatever it might be, you're stimulating yourself, obviously, but you're seeking something based off of some visual thrill. You know what I mean? You're envisioning your life and getting a thrill from some type of short-term reward or maybe long-term reward as well, but it's negative. You know what I mean? So once you adjust the vision and you can find something you're passionate about, I think, especially guys like us, we take off.
That's the best medicine, bro. Now, you're 100% right. Now, if you want to really go down a rabbit hole and really fuck with your mind, I assume swearing was okay on this show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ask yourself, if the education department is so astute and full of all these scholars and solutions, then why these people, young children who suffer from ADD, statistically, we know go on to be the best innovators, creators, entrepreneurs, problem solvers the world has ever seen.
Yeah.
But what do we do with them at the scholastic level? We medicate them, shut them up, put them in a corner, label them.
Put them in meth.
What do we? Amphetamine salts, which the whole world thinks Adderall is just this drug. People who actually understand narcotics understand it's meth.
Dude, big pharma, we could do a whole other podcast. Especially you with you being a
bro. I'm a fucking poster child for figuring that evil out. Okay.
Holy shit.
So now say to yourself, okay, and I consider myself lucky that they didn't diagnose me with ADD early, bro. Can you understand what would have happened to me? Put me on meth at fucking 10 years old? Dude, I'd just be sitting around doing nothing, happy. Dopamine, I'm good. Dead. Fucking scrambled eggs, right?
Some of these kids start snorting the Adderall because they get so addicted and abused.
And then they it's just like a hit of crack, bro. I've smoked crack before, and if you've never smoked crack before, you don't understand that the very first hit of crack that you smoke. And just for the audience, I've been sober since 29 years old. I'm 41 now, okay? But I have no problem speaking on the evils of my past, because if it educates somebody or helps one person, it's worth me turning my shell inside out, right? And I believe that anybody who wants to consider themselves a noble individual and say that they're here to help society, if you can't turn the mirror on yourself and talk about your evils, then you ain't here to try to help anybody. You're here to try to protect yourself, right? So I'm an open book. But smoking crack cocaine, the first hit, is one of the most incredible experiences you'll ever have in your life, followed by one of the most lonely feelings you'll ever get that exists in.
Why? What's it like? Paint the picture for me.
It's going to be vivid. Okay. Yeah. Picture you're in the middle of receiving a favor from a beautiful woman. Yeah. Okay. She's below your belt line. Okay. Yeah. And at the same time, you're watching Khabib Nurmagomedov put Conor McGregor in the final clinch. Okay.
Oh my God. This is a perfect.
Okay. I'm trying to paint this for
that
you.
Might ruin my life.
Meanwhile, they're dropping off 7 boxes of the newest designer clothes that you desire. Meanwhile, the chauffeur is walking in with the keys to your new Chiron or whatever you want. Yeah. All the while, the president's calling you at the same time saying, Tristan, congratulations. I've seen your stuff. It's very good. I'd like you to have dinner with the White House with me and Melania this evening. Yeah. Boom, all at once, and a back rub. Yeah. All at the same time. Okay. Physically, the word they use is euphoria. Okay. All your problems go away. Physically, you feel amazing. You're charged with the most amount of energy you've ever felt in your life. You feel like you could burst through the ceiling of the car and take on the world. You feel like you're connected to the heavens above. And I paint such a romantic picture of it, because how else do you think people go down these dark roads and sleep under bridges and have sex with hookers that they know are infected and give up their life savings and steal from their children's Xboxes to go? Like, it's got to be that powerful if it does those things, right? And then these same people get sober and all of a sudden they become preachers. Like, that person was that inherently good, but they were doing I'm a perfect example. I stole, I robbed, I cheated, I lied, I did all these things. Now I'm a philanthropist. I volunteer, I help, I donate my time. I'm a good father, great husband, a good employer to work for. How do these two polar opposites coexist? Because when you introduce a narcotic that creates such a synthetic euphoria, it is incredibly difficult to walk away from that, especially if you're someone that has pain from your childhood, okay? So I strongly recommend you don't ever try it. No. But my point being, that stimulus you're giving to a child And this child is now hooked. Like they finally get to relax. You see the kid with ADD, right? Bing, bing, bang, bang, bop. Give him his meth, give him his Adderall. It's like the movie Requiem for a Dream. You ever seen Requiem for a Dream? It's I think a 90s movie. It's got Jared Leto, Jennifer Connelly, one of the Wayans brothers. Amazing movie. You're going to want to watch that movie, okay? Yeah. Watch that movie. You'll understand everything that I'm saying right now, okay? 3 young, beautiful children get hooked on heroin. Life goes to hell. The end would make you vomit. It's one of those movies that doesn't end on a high point. It ends with you going, I might just want to end my life right now. Like, it's one of those kind of movies, right? So this picture that is painted is kids who fall in line, get their good SAT scores. Bro, they're telling kids not to go to the bathroom during class. Like at the school that my children attend, my son comes home, yeah, I had a little accident. I'm sorry, Dad. Why? This is, 5, 6-year-old boy. This is a couple years ago, my son. Why? Because the teacher wouldn't let me go potty. Why? Because they said that we go potty at the beginning, at lunch, or at the end of the day, that we're not allowed to leave class and go potty. Bro, I got to that school faster than Superman got to Krypton.
Is it public school?
Yes.
I could go down a whole other, because I feel like public schools should be destroyed.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Just to put a cherry on top of this sundae, they're taking the kids that could be the highest producers of intellect, innovation, technology, solutions, and they're medicating with Adderall, and all the other ones that'll fall in line and go into the workforce and do the 9-to-5 thing and say their prayers and go to bed and just do as they're told. Those are the kids that they call the good ones. Meanwhile, it takes significant, and then think of people like Elon Musk, think of people like myself, think about people like you, think about Donald Trump. Like, there has to be a catalyst of near life-ending pain in order for these individuals to break out and figure themselves out and understand, okay, so for instance, Bet David, what did he do? He just took on all this pain and went, fuck this, I'm going to make the Bet David name a remembered name, and he went on a mission, right? Elon Musk said, okay, Mom, you want to cheat on Dad? Dad, you want to abuse me? Bullies, you want to kick my ass and beat my head in within inches of my life? I'll show you, right? Me, I went, okay, the whole world thinks I'm this scumbag. Everybody hates me. I'll never amount to anything. I'll show you guys. So it takes some other catalyst to get, and the thing is that catalyst is so negative, man, and it hurts people deeply in order for them to figure out, okay, the entire institution I relied on from the age of kindergarten through my senior year that told me to walk down this path was actually hurting me. Like, bro, during your molding stages, you are so moldable, malleable. Like, they create this reality that they want. And I'm not trying to sound so prophetic here in the they and the man. I'm just talking about reality. This is reality, okay? They tell you what you should be. And then if you discover you don't fit the mold, well, you're an outcast.
Yeah.
And either they medicate you and you stay the outcast who got a little better with this pill, or you have to endure a tremendous amount of pain before you actually figure out who you are. And then what do? You go on to create amazing things. Like, tell me that whole that whole system isn't fucked up, bro. It's ass backwards.
Yeah.
So if we're the scholars that we are in academia and in school, why have we not solved for this? And why are we continuing to put fucking square pegs in round holes? That's what I want to know.
Well, you'll never destroy the matrix, but you can escape it.
Yeah.
You can't destroy it.
Yeah.
It's a universe. If you destroyed it, then there would no longer be individuals like it. There's duality. If we destroyed hell, we would destroy heaven.
Yep. You're absolutely right. So do you think that guys like you and I, not to put us in the same bucket, but to a certain extent, do you think guys like you and I are subconsciously on a mission to try to help other people escape the matrix? Do you think that's part of what we do?
Yes and no. I think I put this on my story this morning, and I've been thinking about this with everything I've gone through up to this point of my life. And I think the human species, and any species that survives, is selfish.
Yes.
We operate first and foremost selfishly.
100%.
I need to protect me. You need to protect yourself. And then I think our secondary thought is selfishness of those that we care about.
Yes.
So then so if I'm spending 80% of my life taking care of me, and then another, I don't know, let's say 17.5% of protecting the people I care about, and depending on what season, because people, I've got the best mother in the world and best sister in the world, and a great father as well. We've reconnected over the years. So it's like, if I spend another 17% of my life protecting them, it's like now I've got 2.5%. Everybody wants to sound like some great man or great woman, but when we really face the music, we have our priorities, and that's how we've survived.
Yes.
So I think it's acknowledging it.
I think you're 100% right, and I really appreciate that answer. And we're getting on time here, but the one thing I kind of want to say before we wrap this up is, in regards to social media, you've got a large presence on social media. I'm trying to build one. Here's what I see, and I want to know your thoughts on this. I feel like we've gone through this cycle, right? Everything in history is cyclical, right? We see these patterns. And I did a little kind of a white paper, I guess you'd say, on this a while back, and it was talking about, the inception of media, mass media and commercials. And then the marketplace responded and just was sick of billboards everywhere and magazine articles and radio commercials. I did some research for those people that don't know this. The TV and the radio were created by RCA or mass distributed by RCA as conduits for advertisement. They weren't there for, you may already know that. They weren't there to bring us programming. They were there to bring us marketing, okay? Look at the history of RCA and the founder of RCA. They brought TVs and radios to us.
Marketing.
Bro, it's always been marketing since day one. You master marketing, you master life, okay?
I heard Christmas was really created by Coca-Cola the other day. I went down this rabbit hole where it was like Coca-Cola created Christmas because their sales were dying off in the wintertime, and they like fabricated, Saint Nick and Kris Kringle, and if you look at it, it kind of made a lot of sense. I didn't do a lot of research on it.
It just goes with, what's that?
Marketing is everything.
You're 100% right. It just goes with that thought that every conspiracy theory is rooted in truth. That's why it can only be believable, right? Yeah. So do you think that all of them are completely accurate? No. But is it possible there's truth in every one of them? Yes. And it's worth looking into and drawing your own conclusion, right? But just back to this other piece, in regards to social media, I think cyclically what's happened is people have gotten marketed to in a major way with exaggeration and hyperbolics and all these things, and then they correct. And then it was, Johnson & Johnson and Kellogg's, the family brands, just a quick little concise message. We're here to help you. We're here, but we're not pushing ourselves on you. We're here if you need us type of thing. Then you had this whole mass, during the pre-Vietnam and more marketing. Then you had companies like Ben & Jerry's and Patagonia where we're just here. We're just this kind of earthy company with this message and of solidarity and neutrality, and they spiked, right? And I'm kind of skimming over the surface here, but I'm getting to this point, which is now we've had since mid-2010s this rush for the past decade of social media, and it started with ads and marketing, and then it was funnels and heavier marketing, and then your Brunsons and your Hormozis, and then Graziosi and Robbins, and all these guys are just, they're redoing the same thing over and over again, and it's getting beat with these catchy ads to a hook, to a funnel, to a landing page. Like, bro, they've molested the marketplace, okay? Literally. It is so difficult to get any reach and any ROAS right now because people they're like, yeah, okay, you're just another one of the somethings, right? Authenticity.
Yeah.
People we're returning to that now.
Yeah, it's correct.
People are sick of it, okay? So that's why I am coming into the marketplace so heavy with, I'm talking about my losses. I'm talking about my wins too. I'm trying to have conversations with people like you that I believe are more rooted in reality and not pizzazz and flair and things like this, right? I went out and had a conversation for an hour with Ty Lopez and beat the hell out of him. Like, it's a podcast I would recommend you watch if you have a minute. It's a side of him that nobody ever saw. He was actually, it was almost like he was coming second chair to somebody who was interviewing him, right? Yeah. So I'm on this ruthless chase for authenticity because I believe the entrepreneurs that are willing to come to the marketplace and say, hey, listen, for instance, I'm running an ad and it's, hey, do you want to make $1 billion overnight? I can't help you. This is the copy in so many words, right? I can't do that for you because I'm not a billionaire, okay? But here's what I have mastered. Here's what I went through to get there. Here's where I'm at now, and here's where I can bring you to. And if you want to get to there, I can get you to there. And then as I get further along, I can help you get there too. That message is resonating heavy, man. I'm just saying this to try to reach out to people out there who have a good, authentic message and can actually help people. Just wear your heart on your sleeve. People, if you notice, the accounts that are getting attention right now are the ones that show the wins, the losses. You said it yourself earlier, high quality pictures, low quality pictures, just be real. Show people the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's what's resonating in the marketplace right now. And I think if we just return to that, man, number one, you get a higher quality marketplace and you actually get reach.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love how you put that. I know we're wrapping up. There's one thing I want to hear from you because we touched on it prior to you closing us out is Trump was doing something with the Department of Education. Did that get passed on like minimizing it? I think it was, maybe it was ultimately just, what was it, that DEI stuff?
Oh, right? The diversity, wiping all that stuff.
And
yeah,
so
that
hurt.
It did.
I think I saw them cry about it the most, which was really concerning because it's like, why would we have these inclusivity hires in our Department of Education, which is just weakening and destroying our nation and just disgusting when I think about it. And I wanted to ask, does with public school, do they still say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes.
Thank God.
Yes.
You know, I know they took prayer out of there and started putting weird
The
flags
schools
in
that
there.
my children go to. Okay. Because that was a major bone of contention for me.
Yeah.
And I asked the kid, I was like, do you still say that? I made him recite the Pledge of Allegiance, show me how they do it. It's hand over the heart. And it's like, okay. And to your point, okay, you want to talk about rabbit holes? Go trace the education system, the people that started it, the money that's involved, so on and so forth. It's a very, very ugly place. To your point on the DEI, yes, that legislation got passed to where it had to be pulled out of Publix, to the best of my knowledge. It had victories to enough where it made media headlines, where they had to pull from the public schools certain books and anything that was DEI related, any classes that were DEI related had to come out. There's boys and girls bathrooms. This was all part of this legislation, and I believe it did get passed because there was a major blowback from it. But I just want to say this one thing. The people who support that ideology, that a 7-year-old girl can be Michelle, decide she wants to be Mike, and then go in the boys' bathroom. People who believe in that and prescribe to that methodology, or that ideology rather, every time I ask them, get past all the fucking virtue signaling. Let me ask you a question. Are you okay with a 7-year-old girl who has a vagina going into a bathroom, calling herself Mike, and being in a bathroom with 8 other 7-year-old boys that have penises, all taking down their pants and standing at the urinal together? Are you okay with that? No. Well, I think we need to respect. No. Don't you fucking do that circular bullshit. I asked you a question. 7-year-old vagina standing next to 7-year-old penis in the same place with their pants down. Is that okay? Well, I think it's grotesque that your mind even goes there. That's reality. That's what you're signaling. That's what you're asking for. Are you okay with it? This is ridiculous. I won't have this conversation. And that's the answer every time, bro. Yeah. Virtue signal to the day is long, but when it gets down to the nitty gritty, ask the yes or no question, they can't do it. Yeah. You made a point about the people that you like talking to, and they're real and they're authentic. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. That's why I think this show went well. Yeah. I think we're very aligned on a lot of things. If I'm talking to somebody, if that person can say to me, yes, I think that the penis and the vagina at 7 years old next to each other are perfectly okay, as long as the kids are okay with it. I could say, I think you're fucked up, but I respect the fact that that's how you feel, and you could say it. Same thing with Donald Trump being able to say Rosie O'Donnell's a pig. I don't agree with you saying that, but the fact that you'll say it shows me that you're real, okay? But not one of them has been able to say to my face that they're okay with that transpiring. And to me, that says you're simply jumping on a train that you feel you should be on to try to go with the flow, but it's not rooted in any authentic logic, and I can't prescribe to that.
Couldn't agree more. Phenomenal episode. So guys, another episode of Adversity Kings. You'll see this up in a couple of days. So we have here Luke. How do I say the last name?
Lunkenheimer.
That's
a doozy.
So where can people find you if they want to do business with you?
At Luke Lunk, man, on social media, at LUKELUNK. If they're in sales, if they're looking to get better, we're the only sales training company that I know of in all my research that actually guarantees results or your money back. It's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
And that's at paid2persuade.com. So if they like what I have to say, it's Luke Lunk on socials, paid2persuade.com.
Let's go. Peace out, guys. Thank you for another episode. Great work.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir.